Hi, I'm Rosanna Berbeo, and I am the Resident Director in Havana, Cuba for IFSA, a nonprofit study abroad organization that offers outstanding programs around the world. Today I'm going to be talking about our IFSA program in Cuba, including academics, day-to-day experience, and experiential learning. We'll also hear from one of our Cuba alumni, and then I will try to respond to any questions you may have. So let's take a look at Cuba. Cuba is the largest island country in the Caribbean. It is actually an archipelago, surrounded by thousands of small islands and cays. It would take about 24 hours by car to drive from its westernmost point in Pinar del Rio province to its easternmost point in Guantanamo province. Cuba is just 100 miles south of Florida. Originally inhabited by the Guana Atabey and Siboney peoples and then the Arawak-speaking Taino, Cuba was a Spanish colony for 4 centuries until 1898, following its independence wars. Most of the indigenous population was eventually wiped out, either in captivity or in uprisings against the Spanish. And with the 18th and 19th century coffee and sugar boom, Cuba became the largest slave colony in Hispanic America, with the highest number of enslaved African persons imported and the longest duration of the illegal slave trade. That is a legacy that the Cuban people continue to live with today, and the African influence continues to be very strong in Cuban culture, in everything from religion to music. The United States occupied Cuba for several years following its independence, in what was the start of a long and controversial relationship. That relationship became tense following the 1959 revolution in the setting of the Cold War. Since then, U.S.-Cuba relations have been marked by tensions, continuing after the collapse of the Soviet Union and up until today. However, they did enjoy a brief respite under the Obama administration détente, when thousands of Americans visited for the first time, helping to dispel myths and developing people-to-people connections. Currently, Cuba is undergoing economic, social, and political change, which makes it a fascinating place to study and explore. It remains one of the few places in the world where American travel is restricted by our government to certain categories, but one of those categories is education. As a political topic, Cuba inspires passionate debate. Economically, it is struggling but undergoing reforms. Socially, it is fascinating to observe in person and to talk to Cubans about the socialist project begun with the 1959 revolution. It is a complex society full of contradictions and surprises. All of this makes it a great place to study abroad for Latin American studies majors, but also for economics, sociology, anthropology, international relations, and political science, as well as for students who are interested in improving their Spanish and being immersed in a different culture, stepping outside their comfort zone. Cuba is known as a very safe place within Latin America, and Cubans in general are warm and welcoming towards Americans. And yes, there is internet. So now let's take a look at IFSA's program in Cuba, starting with academics. IFSA partners with the Universidad de La Habana, where students enroll in classes with Cubans and with other international students in the departments of history, philosophy, sociology, and arts and letters. They can also enroll in the Faculty of Spanish for non-Spanish speakers. Classes are in Spanish. The GPA requirement is 3.0, and study abroad students are welcome to participate in campus life, in activities such as intramural sports, student festivals, and others. Some of our students in the past have been the stars of the history department soccer team, and they've played guitar with fellow singer-songwriters. They've explored new Afro-Cuban businesses and projects. And in the photo on the left, you can see our students participating in International Day at the university, when students from different countries present different things about their home countries. The university is located in the vibrant cultural heart of Havana, the Vedado district, which has theaters, live music, art galleries, and nightlife. You can walk most places, from Old Havana, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, to the Malecón, which is the seawall and boulevard where Cubans go to relax, socialize, and enjoy the sunset. With IFSA's study abroad program in Cuba, you have the opportunity to experience full immersion. In addition to your classes at the university, IFSA organizes cultural engagement activities and excursions. These might include concerts, festivals, visits to urban farms or rural locations, museums, performances, or special guest lectures tailored to student interests, in addition to walking tours around the city and the neighborhoods. Students live with host families in casas particulares, which are private homes that operate as B&Bs, but which are exclusive for our students. Living with a host family is a great way to practice your Spanish and to learn more about local customs, history, and society in general. Our Cuban host families really enjoy talking to students, and one of their favorite activities to do together with them, for example, is to celebrate birthdays. In Havana, students also have the opportunity to engage in volunteer service. IFSA partners with a local literary cafe called Cuba Libro, where we run a volunteer English tutoring program, and other opportunities have included environmental cleanups. There are many ways to engage with the local community. Now that you've heard some details about IFSA's program in Cuba, let's hear from Johan. He's an IFSA Cuba alumnus who couldn't be with us today because he's actually traveling on his way to Mexico as a Fulbright scholar. So let's hear from Johan.
Hi everyone, my name is Johan and I studied abroad in Cuba during the fall 2018 semester. So at that time, American relations with Cuba were worsening as Trump was trying to undo the Obama thaw that took place a couple years prior to that. And I started my semester abroad with a couple of expectations. Improving my Spanish was really my #1 goal, and I just wanted to have a better conversational and academic use of the language. I thought that was really important both to my college studies, but also to the kinds of professional jobs and things that I wanted to do after graduation. And so to that end, I think study abroad in Cuba was a huge success. And even over it was only 3 months, but I feel like my language skills really improved during that time. I was constantly talking with my host family, with professors, students in classes at La Universidad, and then just people that I would run into on the street, whether that was in the agropecuarios or at the bus stop, wherever. It was happening all the time, conversation. And then also I think reading, hearing people. Hearing songs and boleros in the Berbeo neighborhood where we stayed, just hearing the news, hearing the television was always on in the background in my host family's house. And then, reading, I had a bunch of readings for class. I had one of my favorite things to do was to go to the Cine, and they had a bunch of international film festivals, which was part of the art scene in Havana, and so they would always have the subtitles, for some German film or some Argentinian film in Spanish. And so I was always constantly reading the subtitles, and I feel like I really improved a lot through that. And then just I think getting around and exploring Cuba really improved my Spanish as well. Whether that was getting to some museum in the city or taking a bus across the island to Santiago de Cuba. I had to rely on my Spanish to, find my way and talk to people and figure out where I was going and what I was going to eat and where I was going to stay, everything. So yeah, I would definitely say my fluency really grew a lot, especially with all of that constant immersion. And then I think one other thing too is that we got to provide tutoring lessons for a couple of Cuban students, and that really helped me reflect on my own language learning processes. And sort of think critically about what ways were most helpful for other people in learning language and what were most helpful for me. So without having spent all that time in Cuba, with IFSA, I would definitely not have had the skills or the ability to do my former job, which was working with clients who were, applying for different kinds of immigration statuses at a nonprofit legal aid group, and then I definitely would not feel at all prepared either for the Fulbright that I'm about to start in Mexico. So my other main goal was to gain a better understanding just of the sort of political social and economic history of Cuba and how that connected with a lot of, the critical issues that I was really thinking about a lot in my classes, and that also have an impact on our world. So, everything like capitalism and global warming and imperialism and racism, all of those things are sort of intricately connected to Cuban society and Cuban life. And I think it was a really powerful place to learn about those and see how they manifest in day-to-day life. So Cuba can sometimes be portrayed as a place that's stuck in time, but I think because of those underpinnings of the island, it creates a society that is distinct and unique, and it makes for a place that you can't replicate anywhere else in the world, and that's really valuable for study, and especially academic study. And that's one of the things that I was most glad for from IFSA. I also think that IFSA specifically, their advising and their programming really focused on those issues in a way that, just taking classes at the university, those connections would have been there, but it might have been a little more, individualized, or up to us to find those out and seek them out, and IFSA did a great job of highlighting that and, bringing conversations to us and letting us talk with people who are really engaged in Cuban society. And so, yeah, I think overall that exposure to being in Cuba gave me a lot of new ideas, new ways to think about current issues, whether that's the protests responding to the death of George Floyd, or whether that's COVID-19 and sort of global health and how we tackle that. All of those things, I think, I can see it through a different lens because of my time studying abroad in Cuba. So really grateful for IFSA program that allowed for that nuanced study of Cuban culture and society, and also for immersion in that just sort of unique place that wouldn't have been able to get any otherwise. And I think it's something that I'll take with me para siempre.
Well, thank you for listening to my presentation and to the comments from Johan about the IFSA program in Cuba. Now let's hear from you. Let's open up this discussion and take your questions. Okay, well, now that we've had a chance to look at some different aspects of Cuba and the IFSA Study Abroad program in Cuba, it would be great to take some questions. And I see here that we have a question. Well, I'm looking here in our inbox and waiting to see if we have any questions. Okay. All right, just waiting to see if, there we go. Okay, so here's a question here. Could you please tell us more about the experiential learning opportunities? Sure. So experiential learning on the IFSA program in Cuba right now, our most exciting opportunity that students have enjoyed quite a lot is our English tutoring program. This is something that we started back in 2018. And it's a partnership between IFSA and a private bookstore called Cuba Libro, which is also in the Vedado district. Students can walk there, and actually a lot of our students just like to hang out there and do homework and things like that. But we created this partnership so that students could pair with Cubans who are interested in improving their English. And often, the person that they're paired with is other students who perhaps they would not necessarily run into in the classes that they're taking at the university. So it's been a really great opportunity for students to get to know Cubans their age, to tutor them 2 to 3 hours a week. and to learn more about Havana. In fact, Johan's partner, who was in the photo with him, is a Cuban actor named Yasmani, who's actually like a really famous actor. And they became really great friends. And so that was an exciting way for Johan to sort of learn about the world of acting in Cuba and theater and so forth. So that's our most popular experiential learning activity, and we have other opportunities for volunteering as well. We've done environmental cleanups, beach cleanups, mountain cleanups, things like that, which are also very popular. Okay. So let's see if there's another question to take here. Just going to check here in the inbox. Oh, here we go. What is my favorite part of living in Cuba? I would say personally, my favorite part about living in Cuba is the people. People are, in general, extremely warm and welcoming, and they always have time for you. You know, one of the things that we get used to in the U.S. is everyone's always really busy, and you know, trying to fit enough time in the day to get everything done. And in Cuba, I've always found that when you're down, or you want some advice, or you just feel like visiting someone, people just pop in. They just pop in and visit and are there for each other. And I think, you know, that's something that our students have really experienced in living with host families, just how really warm the families are, and how quickly they develop a very close relationship. Okay, let's take another question here. How different is the education system from the United States? How does the university work? Well, the university, in many senses, the system is similar to the U.S. Students earn undergraduate and graduate degrees at the University of Havana, where we partner. I think the current student population is about 17,000, so it's quite a large university. And one of the main differences that students have to adjust to is it's a lot more analog than the university experience in the U.S. There's a lot of more traditional lecture type classes. And another thing that students find to be a surprise is how freely Cuban students and professors share information. Students are very quick to share their notes with fellow students, and professors often share their presentations, their lectures, their PowerPoints, PDFs, and sometimes entire libraries of books in digital form. So there's a real culture of sharing information, being, you know, with an attitude of real solidarity amongst the students and the professors. And also students have quite a lot of input with classes. Professors have been known to change their class schedules based on their students demanding it. So that's also something that surprised students from the United States. Okay, let's perhaps take one more question. Here we go. What are the most popular classes that students take? A lot of students from the U.S. who come to Cuba are really interested in seeing things from the Cuban point of view, trying to get a different perspective from the one that's more common in the United States. So students have taken Cuban classes such as history classes, such as the Cuban Revolution, Latin American history, to get the Cuban perspective. And I've also had students take classes on, for example, US history and European history, economics, just to get that quite different perspective. As far as philosophy, the classes on Marxism tend to be popular, and literature classes also tend to be very popular, as do any classes that students can find that have to do with the African diaspora. So Afro-Caribbean classes is one of the top classes that IFSA students have enjoyed in the past, as is Cuban film, which is a topic that's not very widely known in the United States, and art, different classes about Cuban and Latin American art and music. That's just a sort of a quick summary of some of the ones that come to mind that students enjoy. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions in our inbox. So maybe what we're going to do then is wrap up this webinar. And I hope this has been useful. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And if you check out the resources tab on your screen, you can get more information about the IFSA in Cuba program at the Universidad de La Habana, and also about other IFSA programs. So thank you for joining us, and hope to see you on an IFSA program.